Hey, what is up, YouTube? Kolst here. So let's move on to the next class of the card review for Murder at Castle Nathria. The new Hearthstone expansion coming out in like a week or two or something, probably like 2 weeks. But we're talking about Mage. So Mage has two themes in this set. They have a bunch of secret stuff and they have a bunch of skeleton stuff. And what are these cards going to be? Let's talk about them. So the first one here is Chatty Bartender. So 4 mana 4/4 minion. Common rarity. At the end of your turn, if you control a secret, deal 2 damage to all enemies. So basically, you get a free consecration at the end of every turn if you have a secret. Now, here's the thing, is that requires you to actually draft secrets, and secrets tend to really suck, especially in Mage. So this is going to be kind of a bait sometimes, but, I mean, it's a very good card if you can actually make it work, right? So, are you going to want to force Secret Mage? I'm not sure. It's probably not going to be the most consistent thing. Will people be doing it? Yes. Will you get wrecked by people doing it? Yes. But overall, yeah, it is what it is, right? Synergy-based card with pretty significant upside. Because the one thing is that you have to actually control a secret, which means if you play a secret and it goes off immediately, you play explosive runes, your opponent triggers it, you lost the explosive runes, right? So it's like not the easiest thing necessarily, but it's going to depend on what you do there. Thanks for the raid, Buzz Lightbeers. How you doing? Next one we have here is another secret card. This is a legendary. Orion Mansion Manager. 4 mana 3/5. After a friendly secret is revealed, cast a different mage secret and gain +2/+2. So this is just you play this and then you play Oasis Ally, and then they can't trade into it or else this goes off. Pretty crazy. It's like, this is one of those things where it's like a super potential win condition. You have to just have one secret. It's a little bit weird though. In its potential situation, it's amazing, right? But you have to have a secret, play it, have it not go off potentially, unless you're comboing it on like turn 7. You have to have it not go off, and then play this, and then have it go off. Probably the easiest way to do that would be to play an Oasis Ally with no board, or just have your opponent not trigger it, and then you play this. And then they're screwed, right? But yeah, it's like, so it's like one of those things, it's like, it's very awkward, but it could also just, if you get the max value of it, you're just going to win the game automatically, right? So it's very interesting. You have to have a secret, but yeah, it's like, it's just one of those things, like it's going to be kind of meh, or it's going to literally win the game by itself. And there's just not going to be a lot of in between there. Moving on past that one. There's a legendary though, you won't see it very much, but this is not a legendary, this is a rare. This is the first card I believe we're talking about, the Suspicious package. There are other cards that have the similar kind of theme where you discover a card and your opponent gets to guess which card you chose. So this is 1 mana 1/3, Battle Cry. Discover a spell. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy. So the way that all of these cards work is you play this, you get the discover, but your opponent does not get to interact on your turn. So the way it works is you do whatever you want, you end your turn, and then your opponent will get the same 3 choices that you did, and then they, at the start of your turn, at the start of their turn, they get the same 3 choices, and then you get to they get to guess. So the issue with that is that what that does mean is that you do not want to play this and then discover, you don't want to play the spell you discover, because then they know what it is and then they get the spell too, which means it's probably not gonna be good. There's a chance that, like, you know, if you discover a flame strike, you might just not care. You might be willing to give them a flame strike because you just need the flame strike, right? You might be willing to give it knowing that they know what it is and just play it immediately anyway. But, you know, generally speaking, you're just gonna want to not do that. And if you play this on turn 1, then you're just gonna do it. And it gets into weird mind games because your opponent kind of needs to pick one of the stronger options, because that's the worst case for them, is you pick the strong option and then you get it and they don't, but you might want to pick the second best option because they want to pick the strong option, right? You get into just a weird mind game situation. So overall, I mean, it's a 1 mana 1/3 and a symmetric effect at worst. So it's going to be pretty good, right? But not crazy good. You wouldn't value it as highly as you would a 1 mana 1/3 discover. But yeah, it's gets into a weird thing, and it's going to be much weaker for streamers, unfortunately. Streamers are gonna get wrecked this expansion probably, but people just happen to know somehow. It's crazy. But moving on, next one is Solid Alibi. This is a 2 mana frost spell. Until next turn, your hero can only take 1 damage at a time. Basically, this is the effect of that old like 4 mana 4/4 that did this, But you can also view this as just like a much worse ice block, basically, kind of. It's engages a little differently. It's more like, maybe it's more like a barrier, I don't know. The point is, like, you don't want to draft cards like this in Arena. Like, it's not really good enough. You know, cards like this, it's like you wouldn't really pick like an ice block or animated armor or whatever, beyond just it being a 4-mana 4/4. So we'll just move on past this one. Not very good. Next one we have here is Frozen Touch. Is a 2-mana, deal 3 damage, frost spell. Infuse 3, add a Frozen Touch to your hand. So theoretically, you can get infinite value out of this eventually, right? It's just, Mage is not the easiest class to infuse with. You have to like infuse this, then play it so that you can get the next one. It's not like it just automatically chains in your hand. You can't just like you can't stack like 7 of these and then use all of them, right? So it's a little tricky. You're realistically only gonna expect then, sometimes you're just gonna have to play this when you need to remove something, and you're just not gonna expect really to get more than probably 1 or 2 infuses out of this at the best. So I mean, overall though, it's just good. It's definitely gonna be very good. You can get maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 of these, but probably realistically never more than that. But you know, that's very good. 2-mana deal 3 is pretty nice. So you get to do it multiple times. You can just keep sending them face if you want, if you really wanted to. But yeah, overall just very good. Moving on, next we get into the skeleton cards. This is Cold Case. It's a 4-mana frost spell. Common, summon 2/2/2 volatile skeletons. That was a neutral card we talked about in our neutral review, which is a 2/2 that deals 2 damage to a random enemy upon death rattle, and gain 4 armor. So overall, it's doing enough that it's just pretty good, right? You get armor, that's nice. Not the most relevant thing usually in Arena, but that matters a little bit. It's pretty nice. And then you get 2/2/2 skeletons, which are both like okay 2-drops. So you're getting essentially just a little bit more than you expect out of a card. And yeah, I would say that's probably better. It's like way better than a Yeti, this is for sure. So yeah, it's just a good 4-mana card. There is some potential synergy you can use it with. So yeah, just very good. We'll pick this a lot. Next up we have another skeleton card. This is the location card, Nightcloak Sanctum. It's a 3-mana, 3 durability location. So you freeze a minion, summon a 2/2 volatile skeleton each time. So like a freeze is nice. It's not super high tempo the turn you play it, but I mean, it's a freeze. It slows the game down at worst case, right? And then you get a 2/2 skeleton. So you're getting like something that's like almost worth 3 mana immediately. You can't use it 3 consecutive turns, you have to wait, but then 2 turns later you get to use it again, and then now you've already gotten way more than 3 mana's worth, and then wait 2 more turns, and then you get to do it again. So it's basically like it's essentially like a more tame, just because it's slower. It's like it's a lot like Wild Pot Cavern basically, but it's just not quite as broken basically. But yeah, especially for a slower deck that just wants to delay things, it does a hell of a lot of delaying, so it's just very good. But any deck, even a tempo deck, is going to be pretty happy because you can freeze stuff to prevent trades and you just get a bunch of stats over time, so it's just always going to be very good. Next up we have one of the last, I believe the last non-legendary volatile skeleton card is Deathborne. This is 6-mana frost spell, deal 2 damage to all minions, summon a 2/2 skeleton for each killed. So basically this is Mage's Cycle of Hatred. Cycle of Hatred is a very good card. This is probably going to be slightly worse than Cycle of Hatred just because it's not quite as efficient. The skeletons are better than... The skeleton's probably better than a 3/3, but, you know, it's only 2 damage. So you're not always going to get too many triggers out of it. But this does become very good all of a sudden if you have spell damage. You can play, like, for example, the 2-mana 2/3 spell damage Naga. Make this 3 damage to make it actually cycle. And then you will replace that thing, plus anything that has 3 or less health then with volatile skeletons. Then this gets a lot better. So you are going to want to try to draft this with spell damage if you can. But overall, like, it's never going to be, well, sometimes it'll be bad, because if it just doesn't kill anything, it's terrible. But, because it hits your board as well. But, yeah. If it... You can compare it to, you know, Infestation, Cycle of Hatred, which are some of the best Arena cards ever. So overall, it should be, I think, weaker than most of those cards, but still Usually very, very good. Then the last skeleton card we have here is the legendary Kel'Thuzad the Inevitable. 8 mana, 6/8, Battlecry, resurrect all volatile skeletons you've got in that game that have died. Any that can't fail in the battlefield instantly explode. So the idea would be theoretically you get like, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 skeletons, and then this would basically just blow up the enemy hero. Most of the time, I mean, you're probably gonna, since all the skeleton cards are good, you're gonna have a handful probably, so like this is gonna be fine. It's gonna be probably something kind of similar to like a Dr. Boom basically a lot of the time. And then yeah, there's a potential that you could, even in Arena, you could potentially pull off a whole skeleton thing. And you can even, skeleton's a draftable card as well, it's as a common neutral, so you could even get them that way. So overall, I mean, obviously you don't pick this if you don't have skeletons, but you're probably just, especially with the set bonus, you're probably gonna have skeletons, so this is probably gonna be, you know, pretty good. And I believe this is the last card in Mage here, is Vengeful Visage, or Visage, I don't know, imagine knowing English. It's a 3 mana secret Mage, epic, so you won't see it too much, but after an enemy minion attacks your hero, summon a copy of it to attack the enemy hero. So, I mean, it's kind of like a weird kind of like, you know, Rogue had a secret that was 2 mana that gave you a stealth. This one is kind of like, it's like a weird version of like that versus Vaporize, right? Vaporize was a really bad card though, just because a lot of times your opponent could kind of figure out what it was and then they could just play around it. But of course, you know, there is the potential that potentially, if your opponent doesn't expect it, they run a giant minion into your face, then maybe they can't kill it, and then they get hit by that minion not once but twice, right? So like this could potentially win you a game by itself, basically. But a lot of the time it's just gonna do kind of nothing. So, you know, it is what it is. But that is it for Mage. So Mage has I think Mage has one of the stronger sets here, compared to, definitely not weaker than like Hunter, but you know, a lot of just playable cards here. Overall, just pretty good. But yeah, not as strong as Hunter, obviously. This could cause draws? I don't think so, right? It's after. I don't think this can create a draw. I mean, it theoretically could with certain cards, but it's after, so you die first. I don't think this can create a draw, usually. That is it. That would be a downside, is that it can't actually create a draw. But that is it for the Mage review. Thanks a lot for hanging out, everyone, on YouTube and in Twitch chat. See you guys in the next one.